Okay, it is 11 o'clock, so we will get started. If I could just ask you all before we begin, if you could use the little raised hand button just to indicate that you can hear me and that you can see my screen. So you should be able to see the EarlyWorks dashboard right now. Yay! Raised hands, lots of raised hands. Thank you. Excellent. So many raised hands. Awesome. A couple of people still haven't raised their hand. If you could just click on that raised hand once you, just to indicate that you can see my, excellent, thanks Vicky. And I think I've got just about everybody. Shista, are you able to raise your hand there? I can see your name, but I can't see your hand raised. If you could just click on the raised hand, and so I can see that you can see the screen and that you can hear. Okay. Have I got everyone now? Okay, we will get started. Shista, I can still see that your hand isn't raised. I'm hoping that you can, I'm hoping you can hear me. Maybe you just check that you've got your audio on your computer. And then if you could click the raised hand, that would be awesome. Okay, we will get started. First of all, welcome. Thank you so much for coming along. This is the very first time we've actually done a demo as a webinar. We've been doing lots of demos and lots of training online, but this is the first time we've actually had a webinar, so thank you for coming along. Just giving you a little bit of background about EarlyWorks before we get started. We are an Australian-based company, so basically EarlyWorks was developed in Australia by educators for educators. So it's really been really fine-tuned for the Australian context. And my role at EarlyWorks is as education specialist. I don't have a marketing background. My background is full-on education. So, and that's where my heart lies, really, is in early childhood education. So, and I'm loving working for EarlyWorks. What I am going to do is basically show you an overview of EarlyWorks functions. And then at the end of the demo, if you would like to have a free trial of EarlyWorks by sitting through this whole webinar, that will give you the right to have EarlyWorks for free for a month for your service. And we'll be in touch with you after the webinar to organise that. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to explain the menu. The menu in EarlyWorks is at the top of the screen. So you've basically got all of your admin functions here, quick observation, which we'll get to when we get into programming. Programs, that's where you spend most of your time. Children, that's where all the information magically gets funneled into the children's files. And then we've got maintain, with a whole lot of maintain settings there. With EarlyWorks, there are three kinds of login. There's administrator, which I've logged in as today. So administrator would be your education leader, manager, director. And as administrator, you can see everything in EarlyWorks. You can see what's going on with every child in every room. You have full access to the quick, everything in EarlyWorks. Then the next level is educator. So educators have some admin functions, and then basically you can see and have control over everything that's going on with the children in your room, but you can be linked to more than one room. So if there's a bit of fluidity within your service, that's fine. You can be linked into multiple rooms. And then the third kind of login is family, and basically families just see what we choose to share with them, and they can also communicate with us. They can communicate with the educators through EarlyWorks as well. So they're like three permission levels, I guess. So as administrator, when I first log into EarlyWorks, or each time I log in, I get this bright dashboard. And this just gives me a nice overview of what's gone on in the current month in EarlyWorks. So I can see for the whole service how many observations, experiences and journal entries that have been created, and I can also see if there are any reflections of pedagogy that require my feedback. Then I have these little graphs. This one just shows me the child activity for the month. These ones show me the staff activity. So I can see the proportion of documentation that's been completed by each staff member. So I can see Shannon Watson's done 29% of the observations, and Kim Johnson is really carrying the load there with 57%. And then the journals, Shannon Watson is really taking one for the team there. She's done all of the journals. And then staff, the experiences here, I can see who's done what. And there are two more graphs here that we've just added in the last 6 months or so, I guess. This one shows for every room the number of outcome comments that have been added, because what we found in some services, some educators were ticking outcomes when they were doing observations, but they weren't actually adding comments to explain how the outcome was demonstrated. So we thought to make that obvious to administrators, you know, with what's going on with programming, we would add a graph to the dashboard. And then this one, reflections, this we added in response to the changes that happened in February last year with the standards. Critical reflection is now more important than ever. So we thought we would make it really obvious in EarlyWorks whether or not educators were actually engaging in critical reflection. So you can see that for every room, the number of reflections of pedagogy and program comments have been added for a month. So, and they're both forms of critical reflection. Now, something I neglected to say at the beginning was that if you have a question, if you could just use the chat function, and I can see that I've got one person, Shasta, that you can't hear me. What I might actually get you to do, Shasta, if you could perhaps give me a phone number, one of our people will give you a call and maybe talk you through and see what's happening that you're not able to hear. So if you could, using that chat function that you've just used, give us a phone number and we will get in touch with you, and one of our support people will make sure that you can get on and hear. Okay, so now I'm going to go through, first of all, the admin functions. So first admin function, or the dashboard I've shown you, the event calendar. This we added fairly recently. The event calendar, every login has their own event calendar, and basically we can add events to the calendar for a room, for an individual educator, or for family members. So if you're having a, you know, an afternoon tea for Mother's Day, you could add that to the calendar and allow the parents to see. By default, you will see all of the children's birthdays in the rooms that you've been allocated to, and families will only see the birthdays of their children. You can also add tasks to the calendar. So if you've got tasks like, you know, checking the first aid kit or something like that, that can also be added as a task into the event calendar. You can also, something that we've just added is you can add experiences. So your program, the experiences that are happening on a particular day, you can also add those to your calendar. So basically the calendar is individualised, so every educator, every administrator and every family member has their own event calendar. So that's the event calendar. Notifications, as administrator, you basically get a feed of all of the notifications, push notifications that have been sent out or received in your service. Staff alerts, that just gives you information about the dates of the last lot of documentation that's been completed by each staff member. Child alerts, this is one of my favourite things. I'm going to go into the kindy room. You can see we don't use the toddler room here. Basically this shows you for every child in your room the date of the last documentation that was created for that child. So we can see the date of the last learning journey entry, that's an outcome comment, individual observation that was created for that child, group observation that that child was included in, the last time experience was planned for that child or that child was included in a journal entry. And the little green number next to the date, that just tells you the number of each documentation type that's been created for that child since they've been active in EarlyWorks. And what you can do under Maintain and your settings is set a time frame in which you'd like every child to have documentation completed for them. And when you get close to that time frame, the date will come up in orange, and when you meet that time frame, it will come up in red. So this is really helpful for those children who maybe aren't at your service every day, because they're the ones that tend to lay low under the radar and can get missed out. So it's a really nice safety net. So that's child alerts. Attendance list. All educators have the ability to print out an attendance list for their room for the day. Daily communications. This is where you would add all of your daily communications. So if you're still, or if you're currently using a paper-based system, this is probably replicates the whiteboard that you would have in each room with all of this information in it, or a notebook perhaps. So basically every room has their own daily communication screen, and at the top of the screen you have the menu, so you can enter the menu for the day. That can be preloaded on a cyclical basis, and when you do that you can still make changes if you want to. If you change tuna to chicken or whatever, you can do that. And then group notes. So here you can send out a group note to every family that has a child in attendance on that particular day. So this one, just a reminder that we are still collecting yogurt containers and egg cartons. All donations will be gratefully received. Or maybe if you know, you want to ask families if they could check if they've got any hats at home because you're running low on hats at the service or something like that, you would include in a group note. So basically all families see this information. Then the information under this orange line, you'll see that that's all individualised. So that is only visible to each child's family. So only Aiden's family will see how much he ate at each mealtime. So I can choose the serving size for each of the meals. And if Aiden was offered a meal but he declined, we've got that declined option as well. This is all free text in these boxes, so you can add whatever you like there about bottle times and quantities, nappies, so any information about nappies or toileting, when the child slept or rested, and then any individual notes for that child. Now you'll see that we've got a send notification to families up here. At the end of the day, if you want to, you can send a push notification to your families, and then they'll be sent a push notification that will take them to the daily communication screen, and they'll see what's been added for the day. If they do log in at any point during the day, they'll be able to see an update of what's there anyway. The push notification just lets them know that it's been completed for the day. Sometimes though, you might want to send an individual notification to a family. You can do that by just clicking on the Send to Family button. So if, for example, Aiden was, let's just say he was an 8-week-old baby and he hadn't had a bowel action in 6 days, and his mum was starting to get a little bit worried, if the drought breaks on your shift and you're the lucky one that gets to change that nappy when finally he does have a bowel action, you would fill in that information, click Save and Stay, and then send a notification just to Aiden's family. So that's how that works. You can see this little green Extend button here, and this Extend button appears a few times in EarlyWorks whenever you add comments. What that does is allows you to turn the comment into an observation that will then inform your program. So by clicking on Extend, so this one here, Emma was a great help in the lunchroom today and she helped Mary setting the tables. Maybe that's new behaviour for Emma. Maybe she's normally quite reserved and doesn't initiate any conversation like that with an educator. So you might want to turn that into an observation then to build on that in the program. You just click on Extend. Then you would choose the program that you want that to go into. So let's just say it's June and I want it to go into the June program. And then if I save that observation, it will save in the June program, and then I can go back and finish it off later on. I really like that function because that really helps with that, you know, the standard 1.1.3, all aspects of the program, including routines, are organised in ways that maximise learning. So here you've got evidence that you're actually using your routine as an opportunity for learning, which is important. So that's that. And the other thing you can do with daily communications is invite children into the room. So if Hayden is transitioning from the toddler to the kindy room, we can invite him in, click on invite, and then we can add information for him as well. So that's daily communications. Next thing we've got here is tasks. So here you can view any tasks that have been set for you. Reflections of pedagogy. This is something that I'm really passionate about. With EarlyWorks, you can add your reflections of pedagogy. I'll show you one that's been done. So this is the way we've done it in EarlyWorks. You would choose the program that you're reflecting on. So this educator is reflecting on an aspect of the daily routine. You would tick the principle, practice or standard that is relevant to your reflection. You'd put your personal reflection in here, then your manager or ed leader or director, whoever provides the feedback, would provide feedback here. And this box here, we've only just added probably about 2 months ago now, really to encourage educators to actually act on their critical reflection and then reflect on that action. Because with the changes that happened in February with the standards, those of you that have been rated and assessed would be well aware that critical reflection is now more important than it's ever been. So not only do you need evidence of critical reflection, but you also need evidence of actually having acted on that reflection and how that's enhanced your practice or changed your practice. And within the narratives here too, this is where you might also refer to theorists as well. So that's something that you might want to include in your reflection. You also have the option here of including this reflection in your QUIP evidence list. You can do the QUIP through EarlyWorks, and you can be, every educator can be collecting evidence to go into that QUIP, and if you tick this box, then it will be included in the QUIP evidence list under the quality area that's been ticked here. As far as the QUIP goes and privacy is concerned, educators cannot see other educators' reflections. The only people that can see an educator's reflection are administrators, because they would be, giving the feedback. So that's how the reflections of pedagogy works in EarlyWorks. You can generate your QUIP through EarlyWorks as well. You can view your QUIP evidence. So basically you can see here I can choose a from to date to show all the evidence that's been collected, and these are all links to observations or experiences or reflections of pedagogy that educators have thought would be relevant to that particular quality area in the QUIP. So, and I love that with EarlyWorks, that everyone has the opportunity to very easily add the QUIP evidence list, and then it becomes everyone's QUIP, not just the director or the ed leader. Quick notification. This is really cool if you end up with, which isn't so cool, an illness in the service that you need to notify parents about. So let's just say you get a phone call in the morning from one of the parents to say, I'm really sorry, but my child has chickenpox and he was at your service yesterday. So you can send a quick notification out to everybody, so all families in all rooms and all educators, just to let them know that you've got or had chickenpox in the service. And if you want to, you can just send it to families and educators in individual rooms, or you can send it to all rooms. So it's just a way of getting a quick push notification out to everyone in a hurry. That's what that's for. And the final thing we've got under admin is generate planning cycle report, which I'm going to come back to. I'm pretty excited about this because it only got added Monday of last week. This is a fabulous diagnostic for ensuring that you're actually doing your linking and your programming, and you can generate a planning cycle. And it's even more fantastic if you've got rating and assessment coming up, because you can produce a report that evidences the planning cycle at both an individual and room level. It's brilliant. We'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so they're the admin functions. And now, quick observation. This is basically just if you don't have time to do a full observation, you just want to select the program it's going into and do a quick narrative and save it and come back to it, you can use that quick observation function, and it'll basically just get saved into the program that you choose there. So that's quick observation. Programs. This is what you've probably been waiting to see. With programs in EarlyWorks, you need to, when you're getting started with EarlyWorks, you must have a program. So you need to add a new program in order to get started. So to add a new program, you just click Add New Program. You would give your program a name. So I might call mine January because I might program monthly. I'd select the room that the program is going into. So maybe this is going into the kindy room. Then I would select the framework. So EarlyWorks comes with the EYLF. It also comes with My Time, Our Place, but you can also add your own framework. So if you're a Montessori service, or if you're a Steiner service, or you have a particular philosophy that you want to include in the outcomes, you can. So you can individualise the outcomes for your service. Or if you want to add a kindy curriculum, you can do that as well. And then I just click Add Record. And then you can see my January program is ready to go. So I can start adding observations, or I can plan experiences, or I can add journal entries for my January program. What I'm going to do is go into a program that's already been done just to show you how you would add observations, experiences and journals, and how you would do the linking, so how you get that planning cycle happening. So I'm going to go into the observations for my June program. To do that, I just click on Observations. Then I get a whole list of the observations that have been added into the June program. What I'm going to do is go into one of these observations so you can see how you would enter an observation into EarlyWorks. So I'll just click on that observation. So this is these are the screens that you would use to actually enter the observation. So you would just choose the program, or it will by default go into the program that you're currently in, so the June program. You'd give your observation a title, the date. By default, the current date comes up, but you can change the date if you want to. So if you were crazy busy the day before and you didn't get to write your observation up, you can do that if you want to. Observation style, you can choose the style in which you're going to be recording your observation. The only one that changes the EarlyWorks template is the time sample. You can do time samples within EarlyWorks. The rest of these just label your observation as being that particular observation type. If you want to change frameworks, you can. You would do that there. The narrative, that's just where you would enter the information about what happened. So it's basically a description of what happened in your observation. Then your reflection of learning, that's where you delve a little bit deeper and reflect on the learning that's happened. And then if you want to plan a next experience to build on the learning that you've observed in this observation, you would do that in the next experience screen. So that will then go onto the program. And you can see here I've got a few visibility options. So draft, if I keep it in draft, families won't be able to see the observation. I can make the observation not visible to families, or I can have it so families can view the observation, which most of the time you would. You also have this option of flagging this as an individual observation. So in this observation, when we get to children observed, you'll see that there's more than one child in the observation. However, because the educator has done individual observed outcome comments, they've flagged it as an individual observation. So you have that, that option. Okay, so once you've filled out all of the information in the first screen, all you need to do is go through the tabs until you're finished. So it's pretty simple. Experiences observed, this is where you would do your linking. So if I was observing an experience from my program, I would link it here. So these are all the experiences in the June program. And if this observation was of one of those experiences, I would link it. However, this was a spontaneous observation, which means it wasn't in my program. I'm just observing some behaviour that's interesting, and it wasn't in the program, so it'll come up as spontaneous. And you would likely have a mix of spontaneous and planned experiences that you'd be observing. Children observed, this will come up with a list of all of the children in your room, so you just tick on the names of the children that are in the observation, and here you can add the voice of the child. So if the child says something that evidences the learning that's happened in the observation, you can add that there. So I want to build a tall skyscraper like the one Mummy works in, and Alfie said we need to put the big blocks on first, then it won't keep falling down, 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 crash. Okay. Then observed outcomes. EarlyWorks by default will have the EYLF outcomes at the top. I'm just going to close these. So you can see this is what it will look like when you first open this up. So it'll have all of the, there we go, the outcome groups from the EYLF at the top, and then the developmental milestones underneath. And if you've added your own outcome groups, they would come up here. So what I would do first is think about which outcome groups are most relevant to this observation, and then I would click the plus sign to show all of those outcomes in that group. And then if I want to add comments for each child, I can do that. So I can tick the outcome and I can add a comment, and this is what comes up there for the comment screen. And you have the option of having that as an educator only comment, so not visible to families, or if you unclick that box, then families can see that comment. So that's how you would add comments, and you can always go back in and update comments as well if you want to. And then we've got all the ASEQA developmental milestones here as well, so you can tick those and add comments for them as well within the observation. And to open them up, you just click on the plus sign and then you can see them all there. And this one, comments have been added for this builds a tower 8 to 10 blocks tall, and then a comment's been added for each of those. So that's how you tick outcomes and add comments. And also you don't have to tick the same outcomes for each child. You can have different outcomes for different children. So I could just tick Alfie in on that one if I wanted and just add an outcome and a comment for Alfie and not Aiden. Okay, QUIP evidence. This is what I spoke about a little bit before. You can add any documentation to the QUIP evidence list just by ticking on the appropriate quality areas, standard or element. So wherever you think that might be relevant to that area of the QUIP, you can tick on it and it'll go in the QUIP evidence list. And you can add pictures or documents to your observation. And you would just add the image. You can put a little caption underneath the image if you want to, and then just tag in the names of the children whose families you want to see that image. If the families haven't given permission for their photo to be taken or shared, a little orange camera would come up next to the child's name, and EarlyWorks wouldn't let you share their photo. So then what you do is just take 2 separate photos and tag Aiden in on his photo and Alfie in on the other photo. So that's how that works. Then when you're finished, you would just click Update Record. So if I do that, it will take me back to the observations for the observation list. And then to actually view that observation, I just click on View Observation, and there you can see it. So I love the way the pictures come up, and adding a caption I think really adds to the meaning of the image. And the sad reality is that a lot of families will put all of this time into adding all of these observations and they won't necessarily read them, but I guarantee they'll look at the photo. So if you put a caption in there, at least they're getting something and seeing why you took that photo, what learning is going on in that particular photo. And then you can see the date, who it was created by, the observation style, the experiences observed. So this one was spontaneous, it wasn't an experience from the program. The children who are in the experience, the narrative. I love the way the voice of the child shows up. The reflection of learning, the observed outcomes, and then if I'd added a next experience, that will come up there. When families view the observation, I will show you this when we get to the children's files and you'll be able to see what families see, but basically families will only see their child's name. They won't see the names of other children. They will only see their child's voice, and they'll only see the outcome comments and outcomes for their child, but everything else they'll see. So that's how that works. Okay, I'll just show you now how you would add an experience into EarlyWorks. So to add an experience, you would just click on experiences and then add a new experience, but I'm going to show you one here that's already been done. So let's go into this one so you can see what the screen looks like. So when you're adding an experience, you just give the experience a name, the date that you're expecting to, or the date that you want that experience to come up on your program, you would put there. Then a description of what you're going to do. This one you can see has been linked to that anecdotal record, building a skyscraper, so I can see where that one has come from. Then these tabs across the top I would complete just like I did in the observation. So preceding observations, if I want to link this to an observation to show where the motivation came from or the idea came from to create this experience, I would link it here, so that's where the linking happens. Children planned for, so you just tick the names of the children you're planning for. The intended outcomes, so you would just tick the outcomes that you're intending to develop through this experience. Resources, you can add images here if you want to, or PDFs to help you with your planning, and then you can add to the quick evidence list as well if you want to. Something else I just wanted to show you and explain on the general information screen. Basically, EarlyWorks, when you observe this experience and link the observation to this experience, a hyperlink will come up here. So I can see that this experience has been included in 2 observations, so it's been observed 2 different times. And once I've actually observed the experience, if I want to, I can come in and evaluate it. So in this evaluation box, this is where I would evaluate how effective the actual experience was in achieving what I'd hoped to achieve. So, you know, maybe if you had planned an obstacle course and it ended up that it was just too difficult, then you might put that in here. Then you've got these visibility options. So while you're working on an experience, you can keep it in draft, and families can't see, by default, they will not see an experience when it's in draft. You can keep the experience not visible to families. So maybe if you're planning an experience for down the track, you can make it so they can't see it just yet. This one I really like, visible only to families linked to children planned for. If you have children with special needs, or maybe you've got a child who you're working on a particular behaviour with that child, you might not want the other families in the room to see that experience on the program. So if you want to, you can just make it visible to the families linked to children planned for, or the default position is visible to all families. So that's the adding an experience, how to add an experience. And you can also add journals into EarlyWorks. So if you're doing a daily or a weekly journal, like an overview of what's happened in the day, you can do that in EarlyWorks. You would enter it in pretty much the same way as you would an observation. So I'm just going to show you one that's already been done. So if I go view journal, this is how your journal will look. So basically, usually with a journal, you would have more images maybe than you will in an observation. So I can see those there, and you can see I love how the captions add so much meaning to the images. Then you've got your narrative there, so just your description of what's happened over the day or over the week. Then the voice of the children, lots of voices, and then your reflection of learning for the whole room. This in a journal, it tends to be more, and this is regardless of what you're using, if you're using EarlyWorks or whatever you're using for your journals, tends to be more an overview of the learning of the whole group. So the children learned about the importance of caring for our environment through planting seedlings. The children made lots of discoveries about colours and how there are so many coloured things around all the time. Children also started noticing beginning sounds, particularly but for brown bear, and the children also learned about the importance of taking turns in sharing when they're planting the seedlings. So it's just a nice overview of the reflection of learning that's happened in the whole room. And then you've got your observed outcomes. My thinking with the journals, you might agree or disagree, and fine, if you would do your own thing here, but my thinking is that with the outcomes for the journals, there's no real need to be doing outcome comments. I think if you just tick the outcomes that were relevant to that day or that week and save the comments for the individual observations, and then in a reflection of learning, really reflect on the general learning that's happened in that week. So that is what the journal looks like. Now I'll show you what the program looks like. So the program in EarlyWorks, I just click on View Program, and this is how it appears. So you have basically the EYLF in full up the top, or My Time Out Place if it's a NOSH service. And then underneath, in date order, you've got all of the experiences. So you've got the name of the experience, the description, so the details, what you're going to do in that, or what happened in what you're planning to do in that experience. If it's been linked to, or if it's come out of, if it's been added as a next experience from an observation, then it will say that up the top there. Then we've got our links to the children, so it tells you who was in the preceding observation, who was planned for, and so far who's been observed in the experience. And then the evaluation, that will give you a link to any observations or journals of that experience. And if you've gone back in and done an evaluation of the experience, that will come up here as well. And you can see here, you can link as many observations as you want to a single experience, and often you will observe something many times with either the same group or different groups of children, and then you'll have a link that will take you to that observation or journal entry. And if you add images into your planning, they'll come up here. So this is showing you how to make a scarecrow, a photo of a book, the distance to plant out the seedlings. And you can also print your the program as well if you want to. So if we go back to the program list, if you want to print a program instead of view, you would just click print. And if you want to print program comments or reflections, you can do that from there as well. So another really cool function that you've got within programs is program comments. To get to program comments, I just click on the program name and then click on comments. And this is a space for educators to be really having conversations behind the scenes about how the program is going. Parents cannot see these program comments. Only educators that are assigned to the room can see the comments, or administrators. So this educator has said, the children were amazing today at both naming colours and identifying beginning sounds. When I read brown bear, I was amazed to find that most of the children were able to correctly identify the colours of the animals in the story. This was after we'd read the story, which does name the colours, but it made me think that now might be a good time to explore colour, maybe with the colour of the week. And then other educators can reply to that comment, and one educator has, and she said, that's a really good idea, Emily. We've been focusing so much on getting the veggie patch up and running, blah, 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 blah. So, and then suggest that maybe they could add the colour of the week to the family's calendars so they can follow up at home. And you've also got that extend button there again. So remember I showed you that in daily communication. So if any of these comments we want to extend on, turn into an observation that then informs the program, we can. So this is, the program comments are really good evidence for 4.2.1. Professional collaboration. So when you do get rated and assessed, these comments are evidence of the collaboration that's gone on between educators within a room, which is really important. So that's that with programs. The other thing that I'll just quickly show you with experiences, when you're adding an experience, you also have the option, actually, if I just click add new experience here, something I didn't show you. With preceding observations, you can link to observations from your programs, but you can also choose non-program related. So when you're adding an experience, so you might manually add an experience into EarlyWorks that's either educator initiated, intentional teaching, or if it's from family input. So if you're adding an experience as a result of a conversation that you had from family, or if it's spontaneous child or educator initiated or community, you've got those options as well. So just wanted to show you that. Okay, now we will go into children. So this is where all of the information magically gets funneled into the children's files. So basically here, most of the information will be in the child summary. So to get to that, I just click on child summary. And this is the information that you would keep updated about each individual child, their attendance days and so on. Then we've got all of the documentation that's been added for that child. And when I look at the documentation, so the journals and observations, I can see a full view, or if I want to, I can see what the family sees. So by default, family get this lovely slideshow view of their journals. You can see that Aiden's family only sees his voice. They're not seeing the voice of the other children. And they've only seen the outcomes for him. And they have the option of commenting on the documentation, and I'll show you where those comments go. So, and then with, you know, the comments from families, then you're also evidencing 6.2.1 that parent views are respected, and also those collaborative partnerships, 6.2, which is important. I'll go back to the child summary again and show you you've got the same deal for observations. You can see the full view, or you can see the family view. So this is what the family sees for an observation. So it's beautifully presented, and again, they can add comments there. Go back to, my mouse has been very sensitive, child summary. All of the images that have been added for a child will be in this image gallery. Families see this image gallery as well. They also have the option of commenting on images. So you might find that your families may not necessarily add comments to the observations and journals, but they probably will for the photos. And again, by having the captions under the photos, it just lets them know what the learning was that was happening. Any documents that have been added for a child will be here. So maybe if the family has shared a speech therapist's report that has some really good strategies in it, you might include that in the child's file. Data communications. So this is what the data communications looks like when it gets to the child's screen. So you can see where we can see the menu, we can see the group note, and we can see an individual note for Aiden, and any bottle, nappy or sleep information will be included there. And now comments. This is where all the comments get funneled to or collected. And we can sort these comments if we want to by educator comments, family comments, or learning journey comments. The learning journey comments are the comments that have been added for an outcome in an observation or a journal entry. So to add a new comment, I just click add new comment, and I might want to say something like, just wanted to let you know that Aiden settled as soon as you left this morning. Then I would make that so that the family can see it, because obviously I want them to see that, and then save comment. And they will be sent a push notification straight away, taking them to that comment. So to save them having to call up and find out if Aiden's okay, you can just send a quick comment, and you can even attach an image if you want to. And again, you've got that extend function. So if you want to turn that comment into an observation, you can. Particularly handy when parents add comments, to turn those into observations that inform the program. So, and then you've got evidence again of families having input into the program. So that's the child summary. Some other things that you'll see, whoops, in the child list. If I go back, my mouse is being so sensitive. There we go, child list. Is a learning journey. So every child, if we want to, we can generate a learning journey. And the learning journey is basically all of the child's outcome comments that have been added in that from to date. So I've got a whole year's worth here. If I click generate, it generates a beautiful Word document that's going to open eventually. Opening. Here we go. There it is. Oops. Why is that not showing? Here it is. It's on my other screen. That's why I've got to bring it across. Yeah. Can I bring it across? Oh, it's not coming across. I'm going to have to get one of my tech people. Rebecca, can you see why that is not coming across for me? It should come across to this screen, but it's not. It doesn't seem to want to come across. Can you? I don't think it's letting me take it across. I'll just try that again. Phil, can you just see if you can get that learning journey across for me? I've just handed my mouse over to someone more competent than I am. Basically, the learning journey is a collection of all of the outcome comments that have been added for a child. Thank you. Phew. You can see my background is not a technical one. I need tech support all the time. Here we go. I'll make that bigger. I know how to do that. Yeah. Thank goodness. Okay, so the learning journey is basically all of the outcome comments that have been added for a child over that from to period, so in the last 12 months. And it should, so this really serves as a beautiful summit of assessment because it's really showing the development of learning and the sophistication in the way that the child is actually demonstrating those outcomes over time. So now, whoops, here we go. So now I'm going to go back into children again and profile. You also have a profile for every child. So this shows you for each child the outcomes for every quarter that have either been demonstrated or planned for that child. So it makes it really clear then if you've got outcome groups that you've missed out on, you can see those. And you've also got the developmental milestones as well. So it's just another safety net really to ensure that you are actually addressing all of the outcomes. And I haven't added this, EarlyWorks does it for me. So from my documentation, EarlyWorks automatically generates that. So that's there under children. Now I'll just show you the maintain functions. Oh, I can see I've got a question. I click on that. Can this be adjusted? I'm sorry, Ray, you asked a question at 11:14, at 11:11, and I've just seen it. Can this be adjusted for OSH centres? Yes, definitely. So hopefully you can see that now, that basically with your program, how you would enter, and probably you would use journals a lot more if you're using it for an OSH, but we do have lots of OSHs using EarlyWorks. And then you would use the My Time, Our Place outcomes rather than EYLF. But yeah, definitely. The examples I've used have been, I know, in long daycare, but yes, we have lots of OSHs using EarlyWorks. Should have seen that earlier. Okay, maintain. So this is where you would do all of your maintain functions. So you would add and remove logins from here. You can customize your outcomes from the maintain. Task schedules, that's where you would add tasks for yourself or for other people, and you can also add events to the event calendar there. You can send documents from here, so if you have admin access, you can send a document that goes out to the whole service. So you might use this to send out, you know, an updated QUIP, if you've updated the QUIP and you want to share it with everybody, or maybe a handbook or something like that. You can send that out to the whole family, and if you want to, you can send a notification, so the families get a push notification taking them to that document. So you've got that option. QUIP, strengths and improvements. This is where you would add your QUIP strengths and improvements. So I'll just open one up. You'll see it's basically just the ASEQA template, but we've made it so that it talks to EarlyWorks. So you've basically got your quality area, your strengths, and then you would link to the elements there. And then to include it in your current QUIP, you just say include these notes in the QUIP. And then you've got the same for your improvements. So this one here that we've done has to do with critical reflection. So let's just say by the 3rd of July 2019, we plan to be critical reflection superstars. And then on the 4th of July, we might think, you know what, we have a staff meeting on the 4th of July, and as a staff, we decide But this should really come out of the QUIP now as an improvement, because we've arrived, we are critical reflection superstars. There's nothing we're not doing with critical reflection. So I might want to untick that box, take it out of my QUIP. But when I get rated and assessed, the nice thing is it might say, look, I know, and then we would add it as a strength. But we can say to the assessor, look, I know that we've got this now added as a strength, but these QUIP notes are still here. So we can say this is what we did to get to that point. So you've got all of that beautiful evidence of all the blood, sweat and tears that went into you becoming critical reflection superstars. So that's that there for the QUIP. I love the way the QUIP works and EarlyWorks. Rooms, this is where you can add rooms, you can remove rooms, you can also view your outcomes at a room level. So I showed you could do it at a child level, you can also do that at a room level. And in rooms, you can also, if you want to, add photos. So say you just want to add a photo on its own. So maybe you've changed the room, how the room looks, and you just want to send a photo home to all of the families so they can see. You can do that here under rooms, or you might just want to send a photo to an individual child's family. You can do that as well. Because sometimes you just want to share a photo on its own. You don't necessarily want to attach it to a comment or to an observation. You just want to send a photo. That's how you do it. You can do that easily through rooms there in EarlyWorks. And then settings. This is where you would adjust your settings. And under settings, you've also got the QUIP. So this is where you would add all of your details that would go into the QUIP. So you can do it from here. And that means you only have to do it once. So every time you update your QUIP, these notes stay here. So you're not having to re-enter all of that information. It's there. So that's that. And under maintain, if we go back here to the general information, this is where you would adjust all your service settings and so on. There's a few options there that you've got. Okay, so that's given you a very, and I've done it in under an hour. I'm impressed with that. A nice overview, I hope, of EarlyWorks. As I said at the beginning, because you have sat through this whole webinar and stayed till the end, I thank you for that, and everyone has stayed to the end, which is really awesome, and there are a lot of you there, so I'm happy with that. You are eligible now for a free 1-month trial of EarlyWorks. Within that trial, I will happily train your key educators, and there is no charge for that. And we continue the training once you sign up to EarlyWorks as well. That doesn't stop just with the trial. And the training we do online, but we can actually talk to each other during the training. It's a little bit different from the webinar. And usually with the training, I start off by just focusing on the programming and that planning cycle and getting educators started with that. Something I forgot to show you, planning cycle report, nearly forgot. Generate planning cycle report. Thank goodness I said planning cycle. This is how you generate a planning cycle report in EarlyWorks. I'd select the levels. I want to show it at a child level. Select the room that the child's in. So I'm going to go kindy room. Select the name of the child. So I'm going to go Aiden. And then when I'm doing a planning cycle report at the child level, I select the observation where I want to start. So all the observations that have been added for that child will come up here. So you just choose at what point you're starting your evidence in your planning cycle. So I'm going to go here. So what EarlyWorks has done is magically put in from the observation, I've got the narrative, the observe, the analyse. So we've tried to use the EYLF and my time, our place planning cycle language. So analyse is the reflection of learning and the observed outcomes and the comments. Then plan, so that's the next experience that we've planned as a result of that observation. If I have linked this observation to a next experience, it will come up, and thank goodness I have. There it is there, the plan. So I've got building a city with blocks, tells me where it came from anecdotal record building a skyscraper. I've got the details, what I'm going to do, the resources, the intended outcomes. Then the act is the children actually engaging in that activity, building a city with blocks. If I've actually done an observation and linked it, it will come up here. Sometimes you might find it will be included in a journal and an observation. I would probably go down the line of the observation to demonstrate evidence of the planning cycle, and I've got observe, analyse again, and reflect. If I've actually evaluated the experience, that evaluation will come up there after the observation. And then if I have planned another experience as a result of that observation, that will come up. Sometimes there'll be 2 tangents that you can choose from, so you decide which line you want to demonstrate this time. I'll go that one. Then when I'm done, I would print the steps and they will print out into a beautiful report that I can use then for the rating and assessment process, or just as a diagnostic to show that I am actually doing all of my linking and generating a planning cycle for each child. So that's how that looks. It looks beautiful. And then what I would suggest, if you're using this report for your rating and assessment, you might want to actually print out the associated documentation. So I would print out those observations so that you can comfortably talk that through. And what a lot of services are doing already, and this is amazing considering we only released this last week, is getting their educators, their team leaders to actually, you know, at each staff meeting actually talk through 2 planning cycles for 1 child in their room, just so you get comfortable with that, being able to talk through and explain a planning cycle. So that's that. Okay, so that has got to, I'll just go back to the dashboard again, and I think I've got, let me go into the, 2 questions. Can we replay this webinar to other staff at a later date? I just have to, I don't, is it recorded? Not this time, but we will do a demo one that you can use for your staff, Renee, definitely. So we will get back to you on that. And what is the cost of EarlyWorks? Good question. So the cost of EarlyWorks, there is a one-off, basically you get your trial for free and you can have training in the trial. That costs you nothing. If you don't go ahead with EarlyWorks, that's mighty fine. There's no charge for anything if you just do the trial. If you decide to continue after the trial, the cost, there's a one-off $99 setup fee. So that covers you for your training, for all data storage, so there's no extra data storage costs down the track, and basically maintaining your account forever. So that's the $99 setup fee. And then there's an ongoing cost of $1.45 per active child per month. So however many active children you have in a month, that's how much you would get charged for that month. And there's GST on the top of those 2 prices. If you're a family daycare, then you pay the minimum, which is $29.95 per month. So that's how that works. And okay, I think that is all of the questions that I can see. Yep, they're all the questions. So now basically we will be in touch so that we can organise, if you would like, we'll send you an email so that if you would like to have the free 1-month demo, you're more than welcome to that. And if you do, I'll be so excited to be working with you and your lead educators so that you can give EarlyWorks a trial in your service. So thank you so much for coming along, and this is really special because it's the first time we've ever done a webinar, and we've been overwhelmed by the numbers. We're amazed actually at the number of people that have come along, so thank you. We really appreciate your interest, and hopefully we'll get a chance to work with you all soon. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.